We're ready to start with Dirty Lazy Keto tips about willpower. First of all, I'm going to ask everyone a question out there watching in TV land. On a scale of 1 to 10, or I guess in this case 1 to 12, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much willpower do you have when you first wake up? What about at lunchtime? How much willpower do you have on a scale of 1 to 10 around lunchtime? And then when it comes to Dirty Lazy Keto in the afternoon or evening, look, it's even off the screen. How much willpower do you have then? Because I think that it changes, right, throughout the day. That's just me. But I'm curious to know what you think on a scale of 1 to 10, how much willpower you tend to have in any given day. And pay attention if that number kind of changed. Because I know for me, it definitely does, whether I'm looking at the morning, the afternoon, or especially the evening. So, let me ask you a question. Another prop. We got to have fun, right? Weight loss can be too serious and sad. So let's try to have a good time. So raise your hand out there if you feel like you've ever been really good at breakfast and then on through maybe lunch and then it just tanks. Anyone? Because I don't know about you, but this tends to be my issue. When I first wake up in the morning, I'm like, yes, raise my hand. Yes, yes, yes. I'll try to put my hand this way. Yes, yes, yes. My hand is up. I'm really powered up. I'm like motivated. I'm excited. I'm passionate about eating healthy. I want to reach my goals and I have lots of zest. And then by lunchtime, I'm still usually doing pretty good. I don't know about you, but I can make it through lunch. And then for me, my trouble zone starts pretty much in the afternoon. I don't think I'm alone. I think a lot of people experience the same phenomenon and then they end up kind of giving up or, getting really worried because they think something's wrong with them. And that's where people tend to go off the rails, quit, maybe start again tomorrow, quote unquote, start again next week, or worse, get really down on themselves. I know has happened to me before where I start to worry that I'm not able to do this, that there's something wrong with me. So that's where I want to pick up the conversation of willpower, because I think this is where it gets really interesting. Okay? So I want to acknowledge the fact that this is tough. Okay? I'm not going to, provide you a magic little envelope today with a solution written inside, but I am hoping to shed some light onto this topic because I think it's a little bit more complicated than we're maybe thinking it is. I think a lot of us blame ourselves. And I hope by the end of our talk today, you might be really surprised to find there might be another reason or another problem that's bubbling underneath the surface. So if you have your book, you can see mine with all my tabs. I have these all over the house and I refer to them all the time. But if you have your book, Dirty Lazy Keto, Get Started Losing Weight While Breaking All the Rules, the part I want to start with is actually in the introduction, which maybe some of you haven't even read. I don't know. This is on page XVII. And if you're not fancy to read Roman numerals, that's page 17. And the prologue is actually written by a friend of mine. His name is Dr. Mike Jones. He is a obesity specialist. I didn't even know that was a thing until we started getting in touch and talking more about Dirty Lazy Keto. So Dr. Michael Jones actually spent time, because he's so excited about this way of life, he wrote a huge prologue explaining his perspective and what it's like with his patients. He's in West Virginia, and what it's actually like to deal with obesity from a medical perspective. So I want to read to you a page 17, just a quick little sentence from Dr. Mike Jones, because I think this might surprise you. He says, please do not beat yourself up about not having enough willpower. Obesity is not a willpower disease. That is to say, willpower is not important. That is not to say willpower is not important, but truthfully, no one has enough willpower to overcome this disease. And then I go on to the bottom of the page. He says, over the long term, we find We do not need inexhaustible willpower. Rather, we need hormone power. We need to change obesity from the inside out. Okay, did that surprise you a little bit? I mean, it surprised me to hear a doctor say that obesity is not a willpower problem. And I really like where he's going. He's suggesting perhaps there's another reason behind obesity. And he's talking about this being a hormone problem. See, this gets me excited. I like having a reason why I've had so much trouble with my weight my whole life. Since I was a little girl, I was told, stop eating that. That's not good for you. You shouldn't have that. As an adult, other adults told me and looked down on me and criticized me, saying, why can't you just stop eating? No wonder you're overweight. You eat too much. You're eating all the wrong foods. Do I have to go back to my hand? Did anyone else have that experience? Because that was my life story up until me figuring out Dirty Lazy Keto. And so that's why I want to dive deeper into this topic of willpower, because I think that's the old way of doing things. It's kind of like in the 1980s when we all wore leg warmers and ate low-fat foods. I think obesity tied together with willpower will soon be something we look at as out of style. So let me continue. All right. I want you to cover your ears because I'm going to get loud with this next point, okay? Cover your ears. Whoop. Might get loud in here. All right, I'm going to get out my cheerleading. Not that I was a cheerleader. No. But I want to cheer this. I want to say it really loudly because I want you to drive this point home. This is on page 35 of Dirty Lazy Keto Gets Started. And these are my words, not Dr. Mike Jones. Like many of us who struggle with obesity and carb addiction, I am probably insulin resistant. Note that many scientists don't acknowledge insulin resistance as a thing. Rather, many medical professionals continue to hold on to the erroneous belief that obesity stems from a lack of willpower. To make sure I'm heard on this point, I am now about to shout very loudly, so cover your ears. You ready? They could not be more wrong! Exclamation point. Did that make anyone laugh? Well, it's true though. I mean, they could not be more wrong. I think there's a heck of a lot more going on beneath my problems with my weight beyond my ability to say no to chocolate chip cookies. I think there's something different about me compared to other people I know in my life that can have a little bit and stop. I think metabolically, I believe there's something very different going on inside. Okay, I'm trying not to cry because it gets all serious. I hope this is resonating with you because for me, this is basically the crux of all of Dirty Lazy Keto. If you can wrap your head around this point that we're making today, I feel like you're going to be able to approach food differently. And it'll change the whole framework about, oh, I can't have this, I can't have that, oh, my life that's not fair. All that kind of self-talk will go away because you'll start to see this whole way of eating in a new light. So let's dive into this a little bit more. Also in Dirty Lazy Keto Get Started, if you turn to page 36, I'll flash it there because I don't want to give it all away. I call it the carb addiction cycle. And that's what I want to talk about now because I don't think this is an issue of willpower. I don't think there's anything wrong with you in the afternoon or evening for starting to crash and, want sugar and then all sorts of problems start happening. I actually believe there's a carb addiction cycle at play. So let's talk about this. I'm going to get out my fun wheel. I love this thing. Makes it so exciting. You're all hoping I give away a prize. We're actually going to use this for a demonstration. So let's start with this. What happens when you eat carbs? What happens to your body? Well, if you're like me, I start to eat carbs. And let's talk about like sugary, kind of fun, crazy carbs. Put that on the wheel. If I'm starting to eat like sugary, high carb type foods, let's say, for example, some chocolate cake. Well, one thing that happens to me right after I eat something that's high in sugar, I start getting, I know this seems obvious, but I get, metabolically speaking, high blood sugar. Now, I'm not trying to be all scientific. I'm not a doctor. This has just been my experience. Like, I've kept this weight off now for almost a decade, and it's given me a lot of time to really think about it. Like, well, why did this work? Like, I mean, I just made up dirty, lazy keto. This is my way of eating that just seemed to help me lose weight. And I just kept trying to articulate it and fine tune it and massage it so I could communicate it with others. And this is what I came up with. So this isn't from some science journal. But after I eat high carbs, all of a sudden I get a super high blood sugar. So for me, that feels good. Now, I don't know about you, but if I eat candy or sugar or chocolate cake or any of those kinds of food, immediately my body feels really good because your sugar goes up in your blood. So it's like a burst of energy. It's like a shot in the arm. You're like, woo! Like, think about little kids on Halloween when they start eating Halloween candy. They start acting hyper. Well, that's normal. When you're eating sugary types of foods or high carb foods, you start getting that sort of experience. You get the high blood sugar. So what happens next? Well, for normal people, I'm not normal, apparently. Like, there are people in my life that can have that candy, have cake, have like food, whatever, and then they're just fine. They just go back to normal. And then they go on with their day. That does not happen to me. I have something that's called, in my opinion, I'm not a doctor, but I have something that I think is called insulin resistance. So even though, I'm going to put it right here. Even though, my body's working just fine. I don't have diabetes. I'm healthy. But even though all of my metabolic processes seems to be in order, something is going on where my pancreas, my insulin, my blood sugar, like when it tries to counteract this high blood sugar, things go wrong. So for me, all of a sudden, I don't know what's going on. The doctors can maybe explain it a little better than I can. But for me, I end up with body fat production. For me, all of a sudden I start gaining weight. Like, I can eat a little bit of sugar, like candy, cake, whatever. The next thing you know, my blood sugar's up. Then all of a sudden I'm haywire and I'm crazy and moody. And I just keep eating because I can't get it back. I can't get it to stabilize. I can't get back to feeling normal unless I keep eating more sugar. That's where my insulin is messed up and I start gaining weight. I'm going to stick that up on here. I want to leave enough room for all the others. Okay. So what happens after I start gaining weight and my insulin's all messed up and I keep overeating to correct the problem? My body crashes. Does this happen to you? Especially for me in the late afternoon or if I ate something too high in carbs. I start getting low blood sugar. For me, that makes me tired. It makes me crabby. I feel angry. I'm irritable. I'm grumpy. And then I start looking for solutions. So for me, I don't like take a nap or do normal people things, right? Because that's probably healthy. For me, I would start looking for food to solve my problems. So when I'm feeling like low blood sugar, guess what I want? I want potato chips. I want cake. I want garbage candy and snacks and Starbucks and all that kind of stuff. Don't be telling me I'm all by myself. I'm going to get out the hand again. Tell me, anyone else? You guys, it's true, right? I mean, we all go through this, or we have been through this in the past. I think with Dirty Lazy Keto, there's going to be changes to this cycle, and that's the whole point. But to make my point, I just want to continue out the last step in this process of eating carbs, having high blood sugar, feeling good, starting to have issues with our insulin resistance, where it's just not working right. I start gaining weight, and then I crash. The last thing that makes this cycle so horrible, this is step 6, is the cravings. And that's what I'm talking about here with the high carb food. Because it's not like I can just shake it off. There are people in my family that can. They can have a gorgeous, huge dessert at a restaurant, or, sweet muscat wine, or pasta, and all this high carb rich breads, even high carb vegetables and fruits. They can eat all that and they don't have a problem. But for me, I go in this crazy cycle where I'm just gaining weight. I mean, this is how I lived my life the whole time I was close to 300 pounds. I was size 24, 26, and this was my life. It was like the whole day was spent going like this. And I put it on a wheel to prove my point. Maybe I should go this way. But that was my life. It was like round and round and round and round. It never ended. So normally our wheel is fun. That's where I give away prizes, but not today. Seriously though, does anyone else feel like they're trapped in this wheel? Because if you're trying to use willpower to break this cycle, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that's realistic. I don't think that's honest. It's not going to happen. My whole life, I have been like fat shamed. I've been told by the pediatrician, by teachers, by parents, by spouses, by friends, by family, you eat too much. Stop eating that. There's a reason why you're overweight. It's because you won't stop eating. You're eating all this garbage. All you have to do is stop, and then you won't have a weight problem. No, that is not the case. It's just like Dr. Mike Jones said in the beginning of the book, and as I clearly shouted with my message, is there is something much more complicated at play here, and I believe it's called insulin resistance. And I bet right now you're wondering, well, that's great. What do I do? Like, if you have insulin resistance, there's no test for it. It's not like you're going to go to the doctor and say, oh, I have insulin resistance, like a bacteria, and they fix it with antibiotics. That's not the case. They're not going to be able to just fix it. And a lot of doctors, like we talked about, don't even know what that is. I think this is going to be at the new forefront of science. I think that in our generation, we'll start to see progress made, because so many people have diabetes right now. If you look at statistics about overweight people in America and overweight children, I mean, it is dumbfounding. It's startling. I mean, we will have a whole generation of children that could potentially grow up and not even be able to serve in the armed forces because they wouldn't pass the physical fitness test. Like, we're looking at a national crisis here. So I think like waving our finger and saying, oh, put the donuts down. I think we're past that. So forgive me if I'm going to get really passionate about this, but that's why Dirty Lazy Keto works. What you're doing with Dirty Lazy Keto is you're interrupting the cycle, because this is a crazy train. This is why I gained so much weight my entire life and I couldn't stop. Or, you might be able to do it for like 5 seconds. That's the willpower. But then something will happen and then done. You're back on the train, right? That's why this works so well. So what is the solution? That's the part we all need to know, right? It's not top secret. That's why I've been writing these books. Like, I honestly am not going to stop until I've told every single person on the planet what they can do to help themselves fight obesity. Because this is such a prevalent problem. So, whoops, throwing my stuff. I'm so excited. So as I mentioned, I already explained to you, this is the whole story here. This is how I lost the weight. I go into a lot more stories about this whole thing and how I overcame the obstacles. So if you haven't read this, I feel like this is the first place to start. I think a lot of people think they know how to keto. They're like, oh yeah, I know how to do that. You just, cut out sugar, cut out flour, done. Well, if it was that easy, you wouldn't be here. I mean, if I may be that forward. I think it's a lot more complicated. I think there's behavioral issues going on and obstacles. And that's really what I try to address in this first book. I mean, unless you've already lost your weight and you're good. But for me, I continue to deal with these challenges. I know in our group, someone mentioned recently about her and her mother went out and celebrated recently and just spent the day together, and they just went out to eat and they went restaurant to restaurant because, quote unquote, that's what they do for fun. And that really struck me because that's the kind of stories that are common, like the codependent relationships that we have, where one spouse is trying to egg on the other one, and then the second that spouse decides to quote unquote cheat, then the other one's cheating. I mean, it's this whole issue of our weight is super complicated from a behavioral standpoint. And this is just the biological or physiological part, right? So bear with me. So aside from the behavioral stuff, which is more in here, this is not a cookbook. This is more just how to do dirty, lazy keto and mentally wrap your head around the obstacles. But if you're struggling about the food part, I'm going to just tell it to you in a nutshell. What we need to do as people who struggle with insulin sensitivity is, you're not going to like the answer, by the way. You never do. You always get mad. You're like, damn it, there's no pill. But here, I'm going to show you. Here it is. We, as a group of overweight people, we need to start eating more low net carb foods that are high in fiber. Okay? Notice I didn't say just low net carb foods, because if I'm saying go ahead and eat as many low net carb foods as you want, that might be you eating cream cheese all day, almond flour, butter, heavy whipping cream, low carb ice cream, right? Low carb baked goods. All that stuff is delicious. However, it's still going to mess with your blood sugar. It's still full of calories. So I talk about common sense a lot in the Dirty Lazy Keto books. And this is the part that people have trouble with. They say, well, I don't like vegetables. I don't like vegetables. I don't like vegetables. That's not going to cut it. I mean, what do you want to do? Do you want to be on this train? Do you want to be on the crazy train? Or do you want to get off? Like, sometimes you just got to rip off the Band-Aid and tell the truth. But if you're not increasing drastically the amount of low net carb, high fiber foods in your diet, and then adding lean proteins throughout the day, you're going to have a big challenge ahead of you. Now, I realize that this is complicated and not as easy as it's, I make it out to be. I'm saying it like, oh, we should just do that. But here's the deal. If you don't know how, there are opportunities for you to learn. This is why I keep writing the cookbooks. I get up at 4 a.m. Okay, I haven't slept in like a year because I feel very strongly that if people don't know how to do this, I want to teach them. So all the cookbooks have 100 recipes each. This one was my first one, and it was out in January. This was the Dirt Cheap Cookbook for those that are, struggling financially and want more of a discount approach. And then I have a new one coming out too. I don't even think I have the cover out to show you. But I also have another one coming out in January called the No Time to Cook Cookbook. Let me see if I can come up with a cover to show you. Oh, I think I see it. Hold on. Here we go. The No Time to Cook Cookbook. This will be coming out in January of 2021. So I feel, again, very strongly. I'm not doing this because it's, necessarily a passion of mine. I'm not a professional chef. I'm a total amateur. I'm learning as I go. I just feel very convinced that this way works. This is how I lost 140 pounds and have kept the weight off for a decade. So I know it works. The question is, are you ready to get off the crazy train and join me? Let me hear your answers. Are you ready to get off the crazy train? Can I get a yes, yes, yes? Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Come on. Don't be shy. Are you ready to get off the crazy train? Are you ready to start being really serious and not telling me that you don't like vegetables and that you don't want to drink water? You just got to do it. I just wanted to say thank you for listening. I appreciate your support. This is a community, Dirty Lazy Keto. We have to help each other. We're in this together, my friends. It's not easy, is it? We got to support one another. So if you found today's video to be helpful, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and then subscribe to the Dirty Lazy Keto YouTube channel. Turn on your notifications so you'll never miss an update. You can also find me on Instagram at Dirty Lazy Keto. And for more information about any of my support groups or any of my books, you can always go to dirtylazyketo.com for more information. I'm here to support you. I'm here to help. I know you can do it.